Hello, everyone, and a warm welcome to the KCK Inspiring Moments with Kaylin radio show. I am your host, Kaylin John Louis, and I'm thrilled to have you join me today. For those listening, you are listening to a show that aims to inspire you to be the best version of yourself and to just always be up to date on what's going on in the world. I hope everyone is having a great day. I'm truly excited just to be on the air with you all today and simply glad to be alive. This weather in Tallahassee has been up and down, hot, humid, everything you can think of. I love summertime, but at the same time, this weather is a lot. But anywho, I am just looking forward to today's conversation. As I always say, please make sure you're taking care of yourself, not just physically, but mentally. Go to your doctor if you're feeling some way. Make sure you're getting your checkups, but also make sure you take care of yourself. They have a lot of times where they call summertime depression, and it's something that happens for people who may not have people to talk to. Y'all, please talk to somebody, especially my men. It's Men's Mental Health Month, and I really want you all to take care of your mind, take care of the things you're thinking about. It is okay to be vulnerable. It's never a weakness to talk to somebody and get that help. And really just make sure that you are being aware of your surroundings, you're staying safe. And I really just pray everybody is doing well. I encourage you to download the Hallelujah 95.3 app so that you can listen to the show on the go on your electronic devices and tag somebody that you know and have them listen into today's upcoming discussion because I truly think it's necessary. I'm excited to talk about this topic for today. And for those who listen, they know this is not something that is new to me. I'm not new to this. I'm true to this. And we're big month. I know I say that June is Men's Mental Health Month. It's PTSD Awareness Month. It's Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month. This month has a lot of things to celebrate, but one thing that I look forward to, that the Black community looks forward to, is Juneteenth, as it was established on June 19th, 1865, and it marks where enslaved people in Galveston, Texas, were finally informed of their freedom over 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation was signed. This significant day represents the end of slavery in the United States, and it's a powerful reminder of the long and ongoing struggle for freedom, equality, and justice for African Americans. As millions of Black people get ready to celebrate this time, we are remembering the battles we are challenged with daily, especially about teaching Black history. Now more than ever, we as a community must do all we can to protect what is going on, protect our history, protect our rights, protect our voices everywhere. So joining me today, I have the honor of having Mr. Marlowe Jones with an organization that I love called Faith in Florida. Today's conversation is protecting our history, and we'll explore the critical importance of preserving and teaching Black history, particularly in light of recent political moves to restrict such education. And Mr. Jones will also introduce the Black History Toolkit that Faith in Florida has created, which is a comprehensive resource. And he's going to be able to give more information about how people can really still find ways to educate others on Black history in their own homes and wherever they are. But before I bring them in, I always love to give my guests an introduction. So Mr. Marlowe Jones is a passionate Newport Richey, Florida resident. His roots go back 100 plus years in the community. He emerged as a prominent figure during the George protests, demonstrating his commitment to justice and equality with an unwavering belief in the power of peaceful activism and passing the torch to the next generation of young leaders in America. He is a loving father who enjoys spending time with his children and working in his community to inspire the next generation of young leaders. He loves music and the arts. And as an actor and songwriter, he is passionate about working with music and art. And I had the lovely opportunity to have a conversation with him for one of the projects that I was working on and just knew I had to bring him on. So thank you so much for joining. Welcome to the show, Mr. Jones.
Hey, I'm in the building. Thank you so much for having me on, Kaylin. I really appreciate it. Proud of everything that you're doing. This is just very inspiring. All the work that you're doing. Thank you for the marvelous introduction.
Thank you so much for being on. And I am just happy to bring this platform because I always love to bring resources on my radio show. Love to keep people in the loop of what's going on and to really make sure the community knows what is going on around them. And so, like I said, he works with Faith in Florida. And I want you to kind of share audience what is Faith in Florida and what was the inspiration behind the creation of the Black History Toolkit.
Awesome. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. So Faith in Florida is a nonprofit, multicultural nonprofit organization. Faith in Florida is in 41 counties out of in the entire state of Florida. Our executive director is Dr. Pastor Rhonda Thomas, who is located in Miami. She is our executive director, our fearless leader. I am a organizer with Faith in Florida. I've been with Faith in Florida for about 2.5 years. I am working on the ground here in Pasco County, which is part of the I-4 corridor. So I've been working on the ground in Pasco here for the past 2 years with Faith in Florida, and we're doing a number of things in the community, which is educating the community, having one-on-one conversations with impacted people, clergy, city officials, state officials, people of all walks of life. We're listening, we're learning, we're trying to bring resources to our community. We're tackling issues such as voting, democracy, voter education, voter registration, and as you've heard recently, Black history. We have launched the Black History Toolkit, which is a free educational resource full of information that I call it the information you were never taught in school. This is the information, the history of Black Americans, and not just Black Americans, but Black people in general. We've been able to take this information and condense it into into a toolkit with the hopes of inspiring the next generation of leaders to teach this information, whether it be in their pulpits, whether it be at Bible study, whether it be at home with their families, friends, other organizations. What we've learned is once we all started learning more about our own history, the more that knowledge it was like a thirst for it. So I was honored to be a part of the Black History Committee that, with the vision of our executive director, Pastor Rhonda Thomas, created the Black History Toolkit. And this has just been one of the most amazing things that I've worked on with Faith in Florida. It started with what happened in the state legislature, where they said that Black history was going to be watered down. You've even heard some people say that Black people benefited from slavery. So as our executive director would say, the state legislator and the leadership in Florida gave us lemons, and we took those lemons and we made lemonade with a little bit of sugar in it. And the Black History Toolkit was born. And not only was it born, but it just blew up, statewide. 22 other states have contacted us. Other states want to work with us. We've talked to people in so many different capacities, doctors, lawyers, you name it, just theologians, professors, people in the United States Navy. I mean, it's just been an abundance of connections and resources that we're able to bring to our community. And with this toolkit, we're asking clergy to sign on to the pledge. And you can do that by going to faithinflorida.org. You want to teach Black history in your church or in your organization? Sign up. Take that pledge with us. Because guess what? They might be able to mess with it in the public school system, but we're going to take it back to the beginning where our ancestors were teaching everybody. And that was the church. And that was in our homes, in our barbershops, in our communities, at auntie's house, at grandma's house. That's what we are doing with this toolkit. We're giving people the opportunity to teach that history authentically and raw and real, wherever they may see fit.
That's awesome that's just even something that y'all decided to create. I know a lot of people, even with the legislation, have kind of found ways to pivot or to, combat even what's going on. Because I know for me, coming up in schools when we were doing Black history, I had people at my church who taught it. But I learned a lot of that stuff either from me looking into it, my parents teaching it to me. I had a lovely teacher at my high school, Mr. WC. He always made sure that even while we were in US history, when we got to our Black history section and we were able to get there, he told us about different parts of history that we wouldn't have learned otherwise. He made sure that we were able to understand and get a grasp of that information so that even when we're going to college or being able to just go throughout our lives, we're not kind of dumb to the knowledge of history that's already within us. And I think it's so important that we continue to protect our history. We're looking at election season and we're looking at a time where there's so much uncertainty in the legislature and just everybody's opinions are all over everywhere. And it's so important now that we protect it because this election. There's a lot of things that we can't really afford to let go by. We have to do all we can to make sure that we really get a hold on it. We preserve it. We make sure we're teaching it and people are learning it. Because I really, even when it comes to me, I've become very passionate about it over the last few years. And I really would love to see it implemented more because I don't want to have to go to a place where I'm looking at my little god brother or little cousins and they can't even tell me simple facts as to what Harriet Tubman did or who Malcolm X is or even the things that people don't know. We have to do our best to make sure we're teaching it. I want to ask you, why do you believe it is so important to protect and teach Black history in schools and just at home?
Very simply, if we do not know our history or our past, we will be lost forever. Our ancestors came over here in the bows of ships and dealt with some of the most horrendous things that man could even think about. It is so important as Black people, as all people, to understand what African Americans went through in this country, what African Americans went through before they became slaves. So many African Americans think that their history began in slavery after the transatlantic slave trade. There are so many of us that have no idea that we were kings and queens. There are so many of us that believe that Egypt is in Europe. There are so many of us that don't even know who Mansa Musa is, or Haile Selassie, or any of the African leaders. They don't know. And it is so important that we teach them. And it is so important that we keep these stories alive. Because if you do not know your history, you do not know who you are. That is the first thing that when they try to conquer a people or take over a people, they strip them of their identity. I'll give you a perfect example. And I can speak on this because I have Native American blood running through my veins as well as the blood of slaves. When my Native American ancestors were eradicated from these lands, the United States government embarked on a system of dismantlization, not only of the Native American culture, but its language. They went so far as they would kidnap children. And over the course of many years, these children would forget their language, they would forget their dress, they would forget their culture. And once that has happened, you have successfully eradicated a culture, a people. And if we don't know who we are, we don't know where we're going. And if we don't remind people of what happened not that long ago during Jim Crow, if we don't remind people of the stories of Emmett Till, if we don't remind people of the stories of Medgar Evers and Dr. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, then those stories might be doomed to repeat themselves. As the great poet, my favorite poet, said, history, despite its unreaching pain, if understood and we look at it,
Mm-hmm.
if we can understand it, we don't need to live it again. If we all could come to the table and say this was wrong. That's why it's so important, because if we don't know our history, we are lost as a people.
I agree. I think that the thing that I think about so much and I especially love is that we have a lot of people who there's so many issues in our world, right? There's so many things, and people wonder, oh, why are we sitting here having to discuss women's rights and the right for women to do anything? Why are we sitting here voting on people's bodies? Why are we dealing with the same things we see in our history books? It's like you said, without understanding of what's going on. That's what history is. I think that's the biggest contradiction I kept seeing. Even when we're learning history, when you're in school, you're looking at all these things. And I don't know if it's just me, but I'm just reading and I'm like, you would think they would have understood that from the first time it happened or from the previous event, but we just keep having the same issue, different font. And I think that we don't need that to keep happening in our world right now, especially when there's so many things that are unpredictable. When we're living in a very dark time, there's so much that we have to do to be able to learn what's going on. You look at even COVID, we saw a
Yeah.
lot of police brutality and we saw a lot of just negative things happening. We saw the Black Lives Matter movement stand up in a way a lot of people hadn't seen. But for me and my generation, that was more of a wow, this just happened. Whereas I hear it from my mother or people in my family that this is not the first time that they've had to see it. And I really don't want to keep living in a world or continue in a world where we don't know what's going on, where we are consistently repeating the same things simply because we either do not know or we just keep consuming so much information that we learn about the history, but we don't take any action to keep the history from repeating itself. So I think
That-
it's so important.
Absolutely. I mean, you couldn't have said it any better. I mean, it's like you already heard about these things. Your mama told you about these things. My grandma told me about these things. And when you look at it, Ruby Bridges' story wasn't that long ago. You know, it wasn't that long ago. And it's very personal to me too, because right here in Newport Richey, where my family lives, we've been here since the 1920s. Literally, my great grandparents and like 200 other Black families migrated from Georgia, and they all together collectively had about maybe 10,000 acres of land, which was unheard of for African Americans in the 1920s. And my family has been able to hold on to our land for over a century. And right next to my grandmother's estate is a school that was built in the 1950s because my grandmother and cousins and uncles couldn't go to the school around the corner. I mean, it's that real in my life, this history, this Black history. And that's why it's like, to me, I love it because I felt like being a student of history, I teach history, I tutor it to the kids in the community. But when I talk to these young kids and they start learning that we were kings and queens, and they're just like in awe. And you can tell that something has been sparked in their brains because it's amazing. What do you mean Africa is Egypt's in Africa? Yeah, it is. What do you mean Timbuktu? There was universities. What was the Library of Alexandria? I was just watching something with Roots the other day. I was watching something about the great writer Alex Haley. I don't know why sometimes I watch these things, but I feel like it all happens for a reason. I just happened to be watching something and it talked about him. But I felt like God wanted me to watch this documentary. But it talked about how he wrote some of the greatest pieces of art, literature that he wrote, which, one of them was Roots. One of them was the autobiography of Malcolm X. But I was interested when he talked about Roots, writing Roots, and how he went to a certain part of West Africa where his family's ancestry came from, where he heard about the name Kunta Kinte. And he talked about how in a village, when the elder dies in the villages in West Africa, is a saying that once one of the old people dies, it's like a library has been burnt down. That is how much history has been passed down. Our elders and our grandmothers, like they were telling us these stories. Like I remember vividly, and I'm so blessed to have had my great grandmothers in my life, like being able to have had some part in their life before God called them home, because I was able to get knowledge from them and learn about what life was like for them growing up in some of the worst times in American history. So I feel like we owe it to our ancestors to learn our history because we weren't taught the correct history in school. I think we can all acknowledge that now. And right now we're seeing that it is an increased attack on Black history. And why is that? Because our history is so rich. It's so full of culture and love. And it is so full of just innovation. And it's
Yeah.
inspiring.
There's so much that you can find. Kind of like you said, you get hungry to want to know more. I feel like for anybody's culture, though, it's just like when people do those ancestry tests, they learn about and where they come from or things that they've never seen before. It's a whole nother ball game for them. It's something new for them to see. So I think that just with people being able to see things like that, it's so interesting for them. I think that even when we think about Juneteenth coming up, a lot of people are out having celebrations. We're remembering history, different things. I want to personally say to people, yes, let's celebrate and let's remember all the things while we're celebrating. But the other part I need y'all to know is while y'all are celebrating, take these moments, even when you're getting ready for Juneteenth and the celebrations that may go on in the city, do something to make a difference with the history.
Yes.
Register people to vote.
Yes.
Communicate to somebody something they didn't know before. Make sure people are knowledgeable because we really owe it to ourselves to know what we're doing, to have the
Absolutely.
information, to really make sure we're prepared. Don't just sit on the stuff you're learning or share social media posts and think that's enough. No, truly learn it for yourself to really make sure that you understand what's going on. And for you, what does Juneteenth really mean to you? What importance does it hold to you?
For me personally, I am now happy that it seems America and the rest of the world is finally starting to catch up. What it means to me is this: it was the day that the Union had to march into Galveston, Texas, to tell Texas, hey, I don't know if y'all got the memo, but we ain't having slavery no more, Texas. Hello. Y'all got to stop. Y'all can't keep people in servitude and keep hitting them and whipping them. So that's what it means to me. It was the day that the United States had to enforce an executive order signed by President Abraham Lincoln because Texas was not playing by the rules. So that's what happened. They posted it on the church in Galveston, Texas. And it was a day that, from what we understand, most African Americans ever even knew. Because you had to think, they didn't have UPS Express Mail then and the blogs and all of that. So everything was carried by word of mouth, postal, military. So it was then that they seen that we were free. It was then that they started to learn what was going on throughout the rest of the United States. So in that moment, it was like America was trying to live up to what her ideals were when they said that all men were created equal and had certain inalienable rights. It was a moment that should have been a moment we should have never had to have.
Right.
When the Constitution was signed, we should have had just as much rights as anybody else, especially since we built this nation. When I say built it, I mean it. When you look at the books, who built the Capitol? Slaves. Who built the White House? Slaves. Who cooked for the presidents in the White House? Slaves. Who did all the running of everything? Slaves.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't really have to do much. So it's like, Juneteenth to me is a time of almost like a memorial, like how some people see Memorial Day, how we're reflecting. I feel like it's a day of solemn prayer for me in a sense, because my ancestors, I think about all of the ones that didn't make it, all of the people that jumped in the ocean and would rather drown. I think about those. So I know it might be celebratory to a lot of folks, which it is. It is, but it's a moment of reflection for me because I think about how lucky I am to be here today. I think about one of my ancestors who had to make it and endure just so I could be here. And I think of what are the chances that I'm here. And it makes me even more proud to be African American. It makes me more proud to be Black. And it makes me be proud to keep fighting for my rights as a Black man and inspiring other people to love your history. Black is beautiful.
It is in all shapes, forms, and sizes. I love it, love it,
Absolutely.
love it. And so you just mentioned even that you're happy that you're able to inspire other leaders, inspire people. What advice would you give to young people they're seeing a lot of the legislation going on? They want to get involved. They want to be an activist. They want to help preserve history. What advice would you give to them?
Find somebody in your community like Marlowe Jones. Go online. You're spending all your time on Twitter and Instagram. Go join a local nonprofit. Go join your NAACP. Go join Faith in Florida. Faith in Florida is in 41 different counties. Okay, go join Go volunteer. Go put in the work to understand what's going on in your community. Not only that, but educate yourself. Young people, we all need education. Don't be ashamed to educate us. If you don't know, it's okay. Come to one of Faith in Florida's seminars or candidate forums. Learn about what these candidates are doing that are voting for laws that take away Black history. Learn who they are. Learn that you could call them up on your cell phone. You could go to their office. Learn that you have the power. You are the power, young people. You are the fabric of this nation that will change this nation when more young people start waking up, and they are, as we can see. But when we all start uniting around things that make us all common, we all want fair housing. We all want affordable housing. We all want to be treated equally. We all want our history to be taught raw and real. And we all want to be able to live without the fear of going outside and being shot and killed just because of the color of your skin. We want these things. So what I say to you, young people, is get involved. Don't sit on the sidelines. Don't just think it won't happen to me. The house is on fire. We need you now. This is a call to action to get involved, whether that be registering to vote. Talk to your cousins, talk to your family members, and say, hey, this is serious. We got to be registered to vote. Did you know that most people don't even know if they don't register to vote after every cycle, they will be dropped from the voting polls? So we have to spread that information to our clergy. Talk to your cousins, your pastors. That's what we have to do. We have to work together and we have to educate one another. And young people, we got to keep fighting.
Yes, we do. And I'd piggyback simply by saying two things: dare to be different and use your resources. Everything I've done, you may say, okay, everybody's outside protesting or everybody's outside giving voter information. We are the creative and technological age. Dare to be different. Do something creative. Utilize AI or social media or different things to get stuff out there. Bring your creative ideas out there. When I say use your resources, lean on your community, but you want to know what the greatest resource of all you have is your voice. I discovered that that's how I am able to make a difference. But even if it's talking to people or having conversations, we have to do more to make sure that we do all we can to keep our history, to keep learning, to keep digging. Because if we don't, these are things that are at stake, y'all. And I don't want to have to look at anybody when we get into anything, because I know I've been pushing voting and different things like that. But above all else, because there'll be some people who will say, well, much on Black history. What about all history? My thing is, yes, aspects of history are important, but for where we are right now, we obviously can see what needs to be protected, just like we protect our friends and our family, or if anything's coming around us, we get on guard. We have to stay on guard, stay ready to protect our history. And I'm just so glad that we were able to have this conversation. Conversations like these are what are really making a difference. And I want to be able to give you the space now just to share how people can get more of this information through this toolkit. Where can they go? How
Yeah.
can they stay informed with the Black History Toolkit and Faith in Florida?
Yeah. So if you have any social media, I know all you young folks out there and all you wonderful seniors in our community as well. I know all of you know about social media or the internet. And if you don't, I know somebody in your family does. But if you want to learn about what Faith in Florida is doing, I encourage you to go to faithinflorida.org, Google it, or just put it in your search bar. It will pop up. You can join our team where you could get newsletters, alerts on what we're doing. You could look on the page and see what's going on in your particular area, if that's Tampa Bay, Tallahassee, Fort Pierce, Treasure Coast. You can see what's going on in the different regions. So you can always be in the know. We also, one of the benefits of signing up and getting on our emailing list is you're going to know what's going on. We're going to let you know when legislation is hot off the press that you need to be aware of. We're going to let you know when new things come out about a Black History Toolkit. We're going to let you know when we have souls to the polls and voter registration drives. We're going to let you know when our deputy of deputy directors or deputy director of democracies when they're out in the different communities doing different speaking engagements. So strongly encourage you all to go to faithinflorida.org. and you'll be able to see everything going on with Faith in Florida. And we encourage you to become volunteers. Join us. Contact myself. My contact information is on the website. If you ever are in the I-4 area, Pasco County, and you want to come join us on a canvas, or you want to come to one of our educational seminars where we teach people how to canvas and we go out in the communities, you're more than welcome. In order to find the Black History Toolkit, it's very simple. Once you go to faithinflorida.org, it's going to pop right up and you're going to be taken to it right away. And you're going to see it and you'll be able to sign up and take the pledge if you're an organization or a congregation, which we strongly encourage. And also, if it doesn't pop right up, you just simply click issues when you go to the Faith in Florida landing page, and you'll see the Black History tab, and you simply click that. It takes you right to the toolkit, and you're going to start right from the top and go all the way down to the bottom. You'll see there's books, there's informational resources on different African-American individuals. There's information and videos for children. It's such an encyclopedia of different things about Black history that we all should be aware of. And that's how you find it.
Yes, yes. Well, y'all check it out. It's very detailed, so much good information. But thank you so much again, Mr. Marlowe Jones, for being on with me today to share more information. I'm so glad to have had you. And y'all, thank y'all so much for tuning in. I appreciate your consistent support. As you already know, if you want to hear more from me, get connected with me, you can go to www.kaylenscaringconnection.com, where you'll be able to find all the ways you can contact me via YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And I just really hope that you are enjoying these conversations. Remember that the Alzheimer's Awareness Conference is June 22nd, hosted by yours truly and my mom. We want you out there. Registration will be closing very soon. You only have 2 more days, so please make sure that you're registering. But by all means, I want you to always remember you are loved, you are enough, and you matter. Don't let anyone tell you any different. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you at the next KCK Inspiring Moments with Kaylin radio show. Until next time, be blessed.